This idea of, is masturbation a sin? The biggest question I would ask you is, who does that message benefit? Have you ever felt shame for wanting to pleasure yourself? Today we're going to be talking about, is masturbation a sin? I define masturbation as solo sex, is another way that I'll call it. It's sex with yourself and your own body. And this can look different for different people who have different bodies, different people that have different abilities. It will look different across the board. It's not this is solo sex for everyone. It is intimacy with yourself, with your body, with your own pleasure. Is masturbation a sin is such a common question because in a lot of religious settings, the idea of sex before marriage is a sin. And that's something that's really preached upon heavily and really indoctrinated at a young age to a lot of people that are growing up in heavily religious cultures and communities. That then is expounded upon a lot into this idea that, well, if sex before marriage is a sin, then sex with myself must also be a sin. And I've heard both and of people will say, like, I feel like it's okay to masturbate when I'm in a relationship or I'm married, but not before. And then I've heard from other people as well, a common experience is I don't masturbate at all because it is a sin forever and it's not something I touch. This idea is completely rooted in cultural interpretation. There is no direct Bible verse. I'll speak to like the Christian Bible too right now, but there's no direct connection to any Bible verse that says like having solo sex is wrong or sinful or masturbating is wrong or sinful. Are there Bible verses about the allure and the temptations of pleasure? Yeah, and I think that that's maybe what this is taken from, or like this idea that masturbation is a sin is taken from those, but there's no explicit guidance or Bible verse or explicit teaching from Jesus that says masturbation is a sin. Some of the longer lasting psychological effects that I see in adults who are raised in this culture, the idea that masturbation is a sin, and I'll even say like virginity culture as a whole, is disconnection from your body, disconnection from your desires, your wants, your needs, inability to discuss sex with your partners, inability to express your boundaries or self advocate. If I don't know what feels good in my body, how can I communicate that with a partner? And then the sex I'm having can become much more about someone else's experience of me than my own experience in my body. So overall, it leads to disconnection from yourself and disconnection and walls between your partners. There is a buildup of shame that also happens here, and that buildup of shame around this idea is masturbation sinful or virginity culture as a whole, sex before marriage, etc. That shame that builds upon that it can lead to depression, anxiety, it can lead to avoidance of romantic relationships, which are something that are healthy for us to have. And connection with others is an important part of our humanity and our growth. So we can distance ourselves from others, then we can also experience depression and anxiety through that. That disconnection is a huge impact of the shame, though. It's really common for us to see women and girls held to higher standards of purity than men and boys. And I can speak to this a little bit from my own experience growing up in fundamentalist religion, where the literature I was reading really explicitly stated, like, this is a woman's job, this is a girl's job to make sure that men don't sin. Men are, in a lot of the literature, animals that can't control themselves, which is super harmful belief to men and women. It's harmful because it minimizes men and their ability to control themselves. It minimizes their intelligence. And then it's also harmful to women because we're placing all of the blame and also all of the ownership onto women, right? And this is a great example too in Jessica Valenti's book, The Purity Myth. She talks a lot about this and cites a lot of research in there about how women and girls are impacted at higher rates because of purity culture. So, for people who have been taught that masturbation is a sin, it is a really tender journey for them to start to reclaim their personal autonomy in their own body and also their relationship with pleasure. And what I would say is start really small and start with the experience of pleasure as a whole. Then you can slowly move into pleasure with yourself, pleasure with, and then expand on that with pleasure with partners. But take your time. Like this is a somatic reclamation. These messages that you are taught from outside forces around masturbation as a sin or your value is in being pure are all messages that rely on control, and what you are doing is taking back that control for yourself, which is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. And taking back that control for yourself also means giving yourself patience and grace and compassion as you're doing this. These messages, I think so often people will be like, why can't I just get through this? Why can't I move through this? Why I maybe even I don't even believe that anymore. Maybe I've stepped outside of purity culture, but for some reason my body at the idea of touching myself just shrivels and shrinks or freezes or runs away. And so, with all of this, it's really important to remember that your body is a part of this journey, not just your mind. Your nervous system is impacted by these messages. And that's really where, like, nervous system, somatic work, somatic integration comes into play, because it's not just about changing your mindset. That's not the step that's difficult. The step that's difficult is actually getting your body to relax and receive pleasure and feel safe doing it without shame. I think it's important to first know that abstinence and purity are two different things. Purity culture, let's say, is something that is forced upon someone. It's something where there is a lack of education, a lack of resources. It is a command and it is control. Abstinence is a choice, and it's a choice that's based in informed consent. People can choose to be abstinent, but that choice is different than being pure or remaining quote unquote a virgin until you're married. One is based in control and systems of control, the other one is based in informed consent. Abstinence is like, I mean, people do have periods of abstinence, sometimes chosen, sometimes not chosen. That's just different parts of life and different flows in the way we go. But in this experience of abstinence, it's always going to be something that is an informed consent, not something that I am doing because a power at B told me I have to do it in order to remain pure or in order to get something or in order to be good. Abstinence is not about that. Purity culture is. If you grew up in purity culture or around, let's say, virginity culture too, it can be really hard to enter into relationships with people or have a thriving, beautiful, robust sexual life with someone else when you're holding on to this shame. That shame really can freeze your body, make you distant, as I mentioned. Also, it can make you just like not want sex because there's so much shame in your body and your nervous system that's holding on to. So, if you're navigating this, let's say, with a partner who didn't grow up in this type of community, it's going to be a little bit different than if you're navigating it with a partner who did. There's going to be some mutual understanding growing up where you both had these messages taught and you're both maybe unlearning them, or you're coming together and trying to create a robust sex life outside of these messages, versus growing up in this and now you're dating someone or in a relationship with someone who didn't grow up this way. It can be really difficult to navigate that. I know even when I was in my like early 20s dating and navigating, it was really hard to explain to people I was dating what was going on with me sexually because they didn't grow up in the same environment. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around like, okay, so you grew up, you went to church, that's it? Like, you should be fine now. It's like, no, no, no. These messages are ingrained and instilled in us. And not only ingrained and instilled, there's threat of like hell. There's threat of eternal punishment and damnation that still lives in your body, even if you don't believe that. Your body is holding on to this. So you really have to start by removing that shame and start with, I'd say, like nervous system regulation techniques. Can I start regulating myself around sex? Can I start, maybe I'm having conversations with friends, maybe that's where I start. And as I'm starting to have conversations with friends, can I practice breathing, maybe even like touching my heart or touching my legs, bringing sensation into my body, feeling present in my body as I'm having these conversations, practicing slowing down as I'm having these conversations. Those are all some really great ways to start. Some books and resources if you are navigating coming out of purity culture and really reclaiming that sexual relationship with yourself. The first one I recommend is When Religion Hurts. That one is not specific to purity culture. There are parts of purity culture in it, but it gives a really good understanding of how these religious messages do impact your body and your nervous system. So if you're like, I'm still not quite getting it, or I want to understand more how these messages impact me, that book is a great one to start, and that's by Laura Anderson. My favorite book that I recommend frequently is this one, Better Sex Through Mindfulness. It's not explicit to religion or purity culture, but it is a lot of research done with people who have come out of purity culture as well as people who have survived assault and how they have come back into having healthy relationships with sex themselves and others. And I like this book a lot because there's a lot of exercises in it. So it's not just telling you, like, here's what you're experiencing, good luck figuring it out. This has a lot of practical approaches. And then another one is The Sexual Healing Journey. This one is an older one, but an incredible read. This one is probably one that is more common, that one you might see as well. This idea that masturbation is a sin is rooted in control of other people and control of people's bodies. Because when I am disconnected from my body, I am easier to control. When I am disconnected from my desires, my wants, when I am disconnected from how I feel in my body, when I am disconnected from my pleasure, I become easier to control. This idea of, is masturbation a sin? The biggest question I would ask you is, who does that message benefit? If this resonated with any of you, please like and subscribe for more content around this topic. And also please share it if you know anyone that's also navigating this coming out of purity culture and reclaiming sex on your own terms.